What's good, everybody? What's good? What's crack-a-lacking? What's happening? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely. Straight ups, no chasers. I'm going to tell you something, man. On the Green Gorilla channel, we drop bombs, bruh. So, you might hear the F bomb. You might hear the S bomb. You might hear the MF bomb. Because we grown. We say what we want, how we want, unfiltered, unfettered. But I'm saying this to say, this is a trigger warning. If you're scared, go to church. I'm telling you. Because we keep it straight up, no chaser, right here on the Green Gorilla channel. Now, before I get started, like I always do, I got to give a shout out to the members of the Green Gorilla channel. So let me give them some fanfare and drop a little round of applause for my members. Yes, I got to give a shout out to my members each and every time, man. So let me give a shout out to Charles Rogers, Black Dog, Brother Love, Ryan Jackson, Infamous Chillin', Randall, Universal 178, Blacksword 404, Rasheed Barnes, Aaron Smith, The Walt Diddy Show, DH, C Truth, The Revelator, Gold Professor, The Nameless Protagonist, Black Pill Ned Stark, Aaron, Odd Collard, Roderick Jackson, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Damon Harris, Brian Williams, Camp Lowe, Nicholas Lobin, Issa Abdul Zahir, Kalanja Kala, Leroy Honeycutt, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, NEU, Cedric Bowman, Truth 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, Ronan Martin, Shop Talk Live, W. Pierre One, Rogish the Billmonger, I Care, Force Windu, Lady Mystery Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. Thank you so much for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. Y'all my gorillas. Yes, y'all are my gorillas, man. Y'all keep it realer. Realer than real. Gorillas for real. So, having said that, if you're inquiring on how you too can become a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here is how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely. Straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. Yes, sir. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to give a shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Especially, I see there's some activity taking place out there. I want to give a shout out to brand new members of the Green Gorilla channel. I want to give a shout out to my brother Love. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the Green Gorilla channel. You're welcome. You are now a gorilla. I want to give a shout out also to my brother here who hit me up with the super sticker, Jamal Jackson. Thank you so much for your contribution, sir. I really and truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for having done that. I also want to give a shout out to Malika Mabane. Thank you so much, sir, for your contribution. I appreciate it. I also want to give a shout out to MLR. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to my man Friday. Thank you so much. How you doing up there, man? How you doing, man? Is it cold up there, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your contribution. Uh-oh, we got a new member, MLR. Let me give him a shout out. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I also want to give a shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Rashid Barnes, what's good, my brother? Blacksword 404, what's good? Again, thank you, MLR. Thank you, Walt Diddy. I see you there. Hey, Goshen, what's good with you, my brother? I see you in here. We Kill Dragons in here. Uncle Fire up in here. Yo, Malik Mabane again. NJ Progressive Indie holding it down. Thank y'all, man. Jamal Jackson, again, thank you for your contribution. And Brother Love, Cynical Optimist, thank y'all, man. I appreciate y'all being in here, man. It's a Thursday, man. Y'all could be watching the NFL right about now if you into that type of thing. I know I used to be, but I kind of checked out of it, after the protest and whatever. I just stopped watching, man. Because I used to go to the bars on Sundays and used to watch the game on Thursdays, used to watch the game on Mondays. Just something to preoccupy your time. But having said that, man, I want to get into today's topic, which is black males' involvement in politics is not patriarchy. It's not misogyny. It's democracy. If you don't like it, deal with it. You got to deal with it. Bottom line. Now, before I go further, I just want to let y'all know that today I got to give you some insight into my viewpoint on what democracy actually is, because I don't think people have a thoroughgoing understanding of what democracy actually is. Okay? Now, I'm going to get a little bit professorial, and then after that, I'm going to go in a little harder. But I got to define some terms. We have to get a clear and a rational understanding of what democracy actually is. And then after that, then we can say with a great deal of confidence that what Ice Cube did had nothing to do with patriarchy or misogyny. What 50 Cent did had nothing to do with patriarchy or misogyny. It had to do with democracy, especially as it pertains to black men. So let me share this screen with y'all right quick. Got a little screen going, but I'm at the wrong part of it, okay? So let me get this going, all right? Now, when you think about democracy, you basically think about a form of government where people rule themselves through voting mechanisms. Now, you could either do that directly or you can do it by proxy. Now, when you have a society and its institutions are arranged in such a way that the citizens primarily vote directly, it's said to be a direct democracy. But when you have a society, right, where the citizens govern themselves indirectly through representatives, it's said to be a representative democracy. Now, this definition or this construal of democracy is theoretical. This is theory right here, right? Now, this definition, this theory about democracy can be used as a means by which to identify and to categorize democracies that existed in ancient times on up to now, standing democracies, which can either be more or less direct or more or less representative. For example, it could be argued that Athenian democracy under the leadership of Pericles was far more direct in kind than that under the leadership of Solon. Although Solon's reforms, go look it up if you want to get some more insight into what they are. I don't have time to cover it, but Solon's reforms are known to have paved the way for Athenian democracy, although they don't measure up to the populist policies later instituted by Pericles. Now, at the other end of the spectrum in time, it can be argued that Norway's democracy is more representative than that of the United States because there are far more viable and functioning political parties in the Norwegian system than there are in the United States, which indicates that a far more diverse section or cross-section of interest is actually being absorbed and represented there. Okay? So they have a more robust democracy than what you have in the United States. If you look at it, you'll see that in the Norwegian system, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 functioning political parties. But when you look at the United States system, what do you see? You got the elephant and the jackass, the elephant and the donkey. That's what you have. Now, you have people who declare themselves to be independent, and you have the Communist Party, the Labor Party, and the Green Party, but they're not functioning political parties in the United States. Nobody's sitting on the floor of the House of Representatives in the United States or the Senate and is declaring themselves to be the member of the Labor Party, the Green Party. They're either, now some of them are independent, but for the most part, they're either the elephant, the Republican, or the jackass, the donkey, the Democrats. That's what you have here. Okay? That's what you got. Now, it's interesting to note that most ordinary people, who are accustomed to living in Western democratic societies, particularly the United States, tend to think that having more democracy is favorable to having less democracy. And because of this, right, and for this reason, many Americans assume that direct democracy is better than representative democracy. And there are several studies on this which suggest that this attitude that Americans have can be linked to their overall distrust, and with good reason, distrust of elected officials and representative institutions. But there are many well-noted political theorists and statesmen who have argued against the idea that having more democracy is better. In fact, several framers of the U.S. Constitution and the signatories of the Declaration of Independence warned against the dangers associated with direct democracy, or as is often construed, it's called populism. Okay? Now, let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. So, in Federalist Paper number 10, James Madison, he basically vehemently argued against direct democracy on the grounds, and I'm quoting him, such democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. Unquote. Alexander Hamilton complained during a speech urging the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, quote, the ancient democracies in which the people themselves deliberated never possessed one good feature of government. Their very character was tyranny, their figure deformity, unquote. John Witherspoon, a man who signed the Declaration of Independence, says, a pure democracy cannot subsist long nor be carried far into the departments of state. It is very subject to caprice and the madness of popular rage. Now, moving outside of that time frame, the founding frame, let's move forward into the future. Let's leapfrog. So you got a famous, he's an Australian, an American economist, okay? His name is Joseph Schumpeter. And more recently, he warned against direct democracy and populism in the middle of the 20th century, somewhere around 1950. And using empirical data developed in political sociology, Schumpeter basically argued that ordinary citizens in modern democracies are too dumb to be charged with the responsibility of making complex political decisions. Also, he argued that the average citizen really is actually uninterested in political life to begin with. And when he's not, he's prone to exploitation and manipulation. So in the best case scenario, you get ordinary citizens and they hand over the reins of government to people who are experts who know what the hell they're doing, which basically limits the scope of citizens' political involvement to electoral politics. Then you got a group of theorists called social choice theorists. Okay, so one of them is Robert Dahl, another is Anthony Downs. And basically what they do is they model the political process after the economic process. So it's an idealized conception of the market. And so they recently issued a repudiation themselves of direct democracy or populism. Now, under their idea, the political process is a competitive process in which individual citizens each seek to maximize their own utility and they actualize their interests through the logic of strategic decision making. So they basically reject populism because we'll put it this way, especially if democracies pretend towards securing the common or the public good, they reject that notion because they don't feel that people actually have the capacity to do that. So they basically say that an active citizenship has no intrinsic value, and they tend to characterize citizens as consumer-like voters rather than actively engaged citizens. Now, let me just say this before I even go on any further, right? I just want to take time to draw attention to the fact that today's black politicians and social critics, even those who were participants in the civil rights movement, tend to characterize democracy as social choice theorists do, as consumer-like voting. And as far as I'm concerned, black people have become so preoccupied with voting and with electoral politics, they've neglected to take stock of their current political reality. Now, I have to admit, voter ID laws, voter protection proposals, shortening of early voting periods, unfair redistricting, billboards, and intimidation tactics to stop black people from voting, that's unjust. I admit it. And those kind of actions should be condemned. But I'm just going to keep it 100 with y'all, man. Voting has not, nor will it ever stop the growth of the prison industrial complex. That's not, voting ain't going to change that. It's not going to stop black men from getting shot and killed extrajudicially in the streets. It's not going to do that. The same applies to the problem of black hyper-ghettoization. These hoods that are created not by derisive and incorrigible and dumb, stupid-ass Negroes. That's not how these ghettos were created. They were created by redistricting, redlining, restrictive covenants, block busting, not being able to get FHA loans, not being able to have access to the GI Bill. That's how the hood was created. But voting's not going to solve those problems. But we put all this stock in voting. Now, all I'm saying is, man, punching a hole in the ballot box or electing who you think is your favorite politician, especially a black politician, is not going to solve most of the problems currently facing the African American community. It's not going to stop white supremacy. It's not going to stop black unemployment or underemployment. It's not going to stop failing schools. It's not going to stop black people from shooting and killing one another. It ain't. Now, the downside, I think, of being non-reflective and just accepting the economic characterization of democracy is what prevents black leaders and ordinary African American citizens from recognizing that the extra constitutional measures and the insurrectionist actions of the civil rights movement and the abolitionist movement That was democracy for us. And instead of encouraging the black public to do what they have done before, or what we have been doing recently, to tell them to go out and vote, that's a bait and switch. But the fucked up thing about it is, right now, you have a group of people, a black managerial class, who's been able to co-opt grassroots movements. They've been able to co-opt it. So all of the activities that black people have been engaging in since Ferguson, Missouri, have been taken over by white liberals in black faces who are pushing a certain kind of politics. You all know what kind of politics it is. You know what it is. Intersectional politics is what it is. And look, ordinarily I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I do have a problem with it to the extent to which it's basically taking the power away from the people who started these movements, who basically are left dead or left incarcerated or left with cases, and all y'all doing is trying to put gay people in office. Or you're trying to put trans women in office. Or you're trying to put black women in office. I might have said that once or twice, but the whole point is that's not democracy, man. You are basically foiling democracy. These people are stopping and preventing it. And that's a travesty of justice, as far as I'm concerned. That's a form of oppression, as far as I'm concerned. Let the people speak for themselves. That's what needs to be done. Now, so what I'm saying is, instead of encouraging us to act democratically in order to improve our condition, black politicians, social critics, they fooled themselves, and they even fooling members of the black community into thinking that voting is democracy and that voting is the principal means by which to practice self-governance. As far as I'm concerned, that's unfortunate. Because all of the agency that's been exercised all of a sudden becomes deflated. No more insurgency is expected. No more rebelliousness is required from the black community. No more demands. All you do now is you go and vote. And the people who are supposed to be the head of these movements, who are not really the leaders of the grassroots, they're the leaders of a managerial class appointed by white people, is what they are. So now everything is going from rebel rousing in the streets, making demands, drawing up plans, asking people who are in power to listen to the demands of people on the ground. All of a sudden now we supposed to just go vote. That's not democracy, man. It ain't democracy. So all I'm saying is, and I'm just going to keep it short here, right? It's clear to me as a black social critic that there's a problem. How can I convince a diverse horde of black people with different kind of political ideologies that their idea of democracy is flawed? How can I convey to the black public that the civil rights movement, or what even just happened recently with all of these insurrections, how can I convey to the black public that the civil rights movement and these movements, if they're chiefly perceived as a struggle for voting and for desegregation or integration, if that's all it is, it's just an exercise in futility. The new black social critic basically has to manage this crisis. And I say it's only three ways. The first thing I have to do is point out the shortcomings with the market-based ideal of democracy. The second thing I have to do is I have to offer up an alternative. And the alternative to the market-based idea of democracy is called deliberative or participatory democracy. And I'm going to make the case that that's exactly what Ice Cube was doing. That's exactly what he was doing. And the last thing I need to do is I have to warn the black public. It shouldn't even rest comfortably with the promotion of participatory or deliberative democracy either. Because deliberation is but a phase of democracy. And as history is my guide, most instances in which you have a movement towards progress, especially for black people, is through insurgent actions, which are aesthetic and expressive in nature, and they are the catalyst no less than plans and reasons and talking for the creation of progress for black folks. So I'm just going to leave this here for 1 second, and I'm going to give you a little short break. And when I come back, I'm going to give you a little bit more of the dosage of what I consider to be democracy. I'll be back in 1 second. We back. Let me stop sharing the screen. I'm the G with the PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. This is the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, with no chasers. And I think that you get the picture that I put forward to you earlier about how people normally think about democracy, right? Now I'm going to move to what deliberative democracy is and to try to explain to you how it's actually a more accurate portrayal or a depiction of what democracy actually is. And then I'm going to point out those shortcomings. And then we're going to try to develop a more practical and a pragmatic approach to politics in general. Okay? So again, so far we've taken a brief look at the historical origins of the market-based theory of democracy. Now, this approach, like I said before, is linked to an anti-populist sentiment that's grounded on dangers, perceived dangers associated with direct democracy. And look, it's people who got money to feel this way. Notice how these white cats, these white dudes that got a lot of money and a lot of power, they're the ones arguing against direct democracy. Peep that. So they say there's dangers associated with it. They say there's the danger of tyranny, the danger of manipulation, capriciousness. So they were leery. They were leery of direct democracy, right? And as are social choice realists and social choice theorists. But what I meant to say is social realists and social choice theorists. But look, these people have little various disagreements amongst themselves. Like a social realist like Schumpeter rejected direct democracy on the grounds that citizens are incompetent. And he advocated for the establishment of a political elite. Social choice theorists, instead of rejecting the competence of citizens, reject the idea of active political participation directed towards the common good. So basically what they do is they conceptualize the ideal citizen as a consumer, a semi-active political person who votes according to what is called the logic of strategic decision, which they think creates political efficiency and expediency. Now, what I want to do is to point out their shortcomings to that way of thinking, right? The things that I want to say about it are not exhaustive, but it's just representative of a larger or a more comprehensive list of significant deficiencies with the market-based model of democracy. Now, the first thing I want to say about it is that the economic characterization of democracy assumes that individual citizens have conflicting interests and that they're in competition with one another over public goods and services. But you don't have to think of politics like that. It doesn't have to be modeled after a competitive process, but it is. The second thing I want to say about it is that the economic characterization of democracy assumes that individual citizens' preferences and their interests are fixed, that they don't change. But every person's views are subject to change and revisal over the course of time. So that's two reasons already. The third reason is the economic characterization of democracy assumes that uncoordinated private choices lead to outcomes that are favorable over coordinated outcomes. But as the prisoner's dilemma, and I've explained the prisoner's dilemma before. If you don't know what a prisoner's dilemma is, go check it out so that you can understand what it is. Okay? Just prisoner's dilemma. Right? But as the prisoner's dilemma illustrates, it's not always the case. So let me just basically define what a prisoner's dilemma is. A prisoner's dilemma is a situation in which people going after their self-interest leads to a suboptimal outcome when they could actually have a better outcome if they cooperated. Imagine two people at jail and they're given the opportunity either to snitch or, to not snitch. To either cooperate with the people or to not cooperate with the people. Now, if one of them cooperates and the other person doesn't cooperate, the person who cooperates, he gets no time. But if they both cooperate, they both tell on each other, so they both get time. If neither one of them tell, they still get a little bit of time, but they maintain their dignity and they cooperate and they get very minimal time. That's what a prisoner's dilemma is. So if they cooperate and coordinate with one another, or at least agree to not stab each other in the fucking back, it leads to the most optimal outcome. Because if you're already thinking that the man gonna snitch, what's the use of not snitching? Your goddamn self. Unless, of course, you want to maintain your integrity and your dignity. So, the last reason, I think, and the most compelling case, I think, for the rejection of the economic model of democracy comes from a quote provided by a philosopher whose name, and yeah, he's a white dude, but I think it's a compelling case. His name is John Elster. He wrote an article called The Market and the Forum, and this is what he says in that article, and I'm quoting him here. He says, "We can now state the objection to the political view underlying social choice theory. It is basically that it embodies a confusion between the kind of behavior that is appropriate in the marketplace and that which is appropriate in the forum." Now, the forum is where people went in ancient times to do democracy. That's what they did. They went to the forum and they talked with each other and they argued with each other about what they should do in terms of making decisions about a whole bunch of shit. Going to war, what kind of laws they were going to have, what kind of laws to get rid of, what kind of people to punish or to execute. They all sat and they had deliberations with one another about these important matters. That's what they did. So you got the marketplaces where you go buy shit. Everybody knows what it's like to go buy something. You ever go buy some shoes? Oh, should I get these or should I get them? Should I get the Jordans or should I get the LeBrons? You understand what I'm saying? So he says, the confusion, we can now state the objection, the political view underlying social choice theory, right? It is a confusion between the kind of behavior that is appropriate in the marketplace and that which is appropriate in the forum. The notion of consumer sovereignty is acceptable, and to the extent that the consumer chooses between courses of action that differ only in the way they affect him. When you buy a pair of shoes, nobody's affected or impacted by that shit but you. If you buy Coke or Pepsi, you want to get Whataburger or McDonald's. You want to get Domino's or Pizza Hut. You're the one that's affected by that choice. Maybe your family, but nobody, nobody statewide, nobody nationwide. Okay? Now, in political choice situations, however, the citizen is asked to express his preference over states that also differ in the way that they affect other people. So there's a difference. When you're in the marketplace and you're buying something for yourself, that choice affects you and primarily you. But when you start making choices and decisions in politics, the shit you choose has an impact and an effect on other people. So essentially, you have to be able to differentiate between public and private matters. And it ought to lead to a distinction between the kind of behavioral norms that are appropriate to private, economic, and to public political life. If you decide to buy a Lizzo record or to stream her shit or to download her shit, that's your choice. Over Ice Cube's music, that's your choice. You can choose that. Right? But that's an insignificant choice. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have an impact on my life. I don't give a shit one way or another. As a matter of taste, I would consider it to be an error. You can buy what you want. But if you prefer driving drunk to driving sober, and I ain't going to say I haven't done this in my lifetime, but you got to think, when you start making choices that have the ability to impact other people, it's not just a matter of private concern. It's a matter of public concern. So when the things that you do affect or have the potential to affect other people, the interest is a public interest and not just a private interest. So then this begs the question, right? If private behavioral norms and concerns are not appropriate in the context of public matters, then what kind of norms are appropriate in the forum? In distinction to those in the marketplace. Now, I say we can begin to explore the answers to this question by examining deliberative democratic theory. Now, the main feature of deliberative democracy is the exploration of how deliberation, talking, conversing, meeting with people and letting them know what you think, presenting ideas, which is what Ice Cube did. Deliberating enhances public reason, and it contributes to legitimate lawmaking. Now, you got different deliberative democratic theorists, and they differ in the way they perceive problems unique to deliberation and how to manage it. So I don't want to get into a nuanced and a nitpicky elaboration of the differences between those theorists, but I'll just give you some general ideas of what they think. So you got a group of people who are called proceduralists. Amy Gutman and this dude named Dennis Thompson, they think that moral disagreement among actors in democratic processes threaten the integrity of the outcome of the process of democracy. So they think that you should have regulative principles that guide deliberation when you have moral disagreement. There are other people who say the exclusion of marginalized groups or oppressed groups is the crisis that confronts the integrity of the democratic process. Hence, you need inclusion, which is what you see a lot of feminists saying. Now, I also agree that marginalized groups should be included in the democratic deliberative process. But it just so happens that it seems to me the only motherfuckers left out of the goddamn system are black men. Fuck that shit. Black men need to be heard. Like Ron O'Neal said, black men need some black male independence. Black men, black men need to be able to exhibit black male agency. Now, there's another philosopher. His name is John Dryzek. Now, to him, the pervasiveness of what's called instrumental rationality is what constricts the ebb and the flow of the democratic process. So, instrumental reasoning is the kind of reasoning that you use when you buy things in the marketplace. He's saying that kind of thinking is what destroys the deliberative process. So, what you need to do is you need to search for pockets or areas where you can supplant instrumental rationality with discursive rationality. That's the goal. Now, there's a whole bunch of different deliberative democratic theorists, and they offer varying concepts of deliberative democracy or democratic principles and the problems they want to rectify with those conceptions of democracy. But in the end, it's my viewpoint that talking in and of itself is not enough, especially when people refuse to listen. Especially when people refuse to listen. And right now, black men find themselves in a very unique political situation. It's gotten to the point where if black men say something, it's considered to be misogynistic. If black men develop a plan and they want to contribute to what's going on in the public sphere, they get regarded as being patriarchal. What kind of bullshit is this? That's bullshit. That's the wrong answer. That's a fail to me. People who say this shit are full of shit. Democracy moves away from the ideal when it's just based on private self-interest. It gets better when people move towards having conversations and trying to open up dialogue so that they can aim towards and try to reach consensus. Now, you're never going to reach consensus. You're never going to be able to do that. Now, you can decide for yourself whether or not talking is going to actually add up to reaching a solution. It may not. Because actually, sometimes the more you talk to people, the more you end up getting into a situation where you realize how much conflict you are in with this other group of people. So talking is not always the way. And that's why I say you need to be aware that if people will not listen, if they will not communicate with you, and if they are dead set on refusing to allow you to be a part of the political system, then guess what? It's time to go scorched earth. It's time to let them know we don't give a fuck what you think. It's time to let them know if they don't like it, we don't give a fuck. I'm telling you, black men have just as much right as anybody else to be involved in the political discourse. No matter what it is they think, you can have black men who are conservative. You can have black men who are liberal. You can have black men who are part of the manosphere. You can have black men from any goddamn where on the face of this earth. They ought to be able to contribute towards the political process just like anybody motherfucking else. Period. all this shaming and trying to tell people to be quiet, why are you saying this now? Why you want to say this now? The election's right around the corner. So motherfucking what? Who gives a shit? I saw this man, Ice Cube, man, talking to them group of women, man. And you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Selena Johnson. I'm talking about Vivica Fox. I'm talking about all them women. I don't even know the name of the show because I only see the show when other people comment on the show. Because I feel like it's a shit show and ain't no goddamn way in the world I'm going to sit and watch a group of fucking women complaining about a whole bunch of bullshit. Here you got a man who is not thinking about himself because Ice Cube, the last time I checked, he's fucking rich. Ice Cube got hella paper. Ice Cube's got big money. Big money. And the one thing that Ice Cube is doing, he's allowing other people to contribute towards his plan. Not one time have I heard Ice Cube tell somebody, shut up, be quiet. You can't do that. You can't make this decision. You can't make that decision. All I've ever heard the man do is say, look, I want you to contribute to the plan to make the plan better. You got people all around out here going off on Ice Cube, saying Ice Cube is regressive, saying Ice Cube is in league with Trump, saying Ice Cube only wants to make Biden and Kamala Harris lose the election. Who gives a fuck, man? It don't matter who's in the White House. Because you know, as is usual, the needle is not going to move in relation to progress no matter who the fuck is in there. Same shit, different smell. That's the point the man's been talking about time in and time out. As far as I'm concerned, man, the president is like the Wizard of Oz with the changing faces. All he do is you see changing faces. Face in, face out, face in, face out, face in, face out. The needle of progress has not moved 1 millimeter in the direction of progress for black people as a whole. But then you got a certain group of people saying, you're jumping the line. You can't get in front of me. You got to wait your turn. Man, be quiet, man. Be quiet. You be quiet. All you got to do is let people talk. Let people have the capacity or the ability to deliberate, to come up with their own agendas, to come up with what they think ought to be the way to move towards progress. But at the current moment, what we have is the idea that if a certain group of people are free, then everyone else is going to be free by default. So let them lead, and then that's going to be demonstrative of progress in the United States. It's absolute buffoonery and chicanery. That ain't going to do shit but take us down a bad path. There's no future in that. There's nothing but loss there. I said this on Dr. Tiasan Johnson's show yesterday. I'll say it again here today. If it is the case that if black women are free, then everyone else is going to be free by default. If that's the case, why don't you see the same kind of well-being enjoyed by black men that you see by black women in the marketplace? Huh? You can go back and look at history. I'm about to drop a big ass bomb on your ass. If it's the case that if black women are free, then everyone else will be free, why the fuck did black women who were freed from slavery go out and get some slaves? Some slaves. 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 Some slaves Answer that question. That's something I really would like to have an answer to. If it's the case that if black women are free, everyone else would be free, why did they go buy slaves after they were themselves emancipated from slavery? Huh? Explain it. Explain it. Crickets. Crickets. You got something to say? You're a man, woman, a child. Now's your opportunity. If you feel that I'm wrong, I want you to prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Demonstrate to me that I'm wrong about this. What democracy entails is that everyone at all times have the ability to weigh in on what the public ought to be doing. And everyone should be included in the deliberative democratic process. Voting is not the essence of democracy. It's what happens after everybody has fucking deliberated. That's what the fuck democracy is. Democracy is not voting for the group of people that you feel are going to serve your best interests at all times. But I will say this, if that's how you think about it, God damn it, we gonna do the same thing. But the thing is, Ice Cube is the better man. As soon as that man start talking to those women, you know what? You know what came out of their mouth? What's in it for me? What's about me? What's in it for me, and me? Mine, and mine, and me. What's in it for me? Ice Cube stepped up and said, damn, I'm trying to do this for black people. Well, it ain't nothing in there for me. And Ice Cube was like, well, there is something in there for you. You black, ain't you? You're black, ain't you? Well, that ain't enough for me. I mean, I am black. Well, either you are or you aren't black. Either your interests are tied to the black community as a whole or they are not. And if they're not, step off. Holler at you. See you. Goodbye. If you don't want to be part of the community and you want extra hog maws and chitlins and pig feet and blankets and Kool-Aid and sugar and milk and cheese, go ahead out there and get it. Stop fronting and acting like you're actually working in the best interest of all black people. Stop it. All the man said was that whoever is in power, we need to speak to them. We need to converse with whoever is in power. I don't care if he's a Republican, if he's a Democrat, if she's a Republican, if she's a Democrat, we need to talk to them all. This needs to be a bipartisan effort on behalf of helping black people. That's what needs to be done. And you know what they did? They just sat there like their goddamn lips was fucking locked. I need something for me. Ain't no way you gonna have no plan for Black America. It ain't gonna be nothing for me. I just don't see it. And then you just went over there and talked to Trump. You just really love Trump, don't you? You just did this so close to the election. The man said again and again and again and a fucking again, I don't have any allegiance to Trump. I don't have any allegiance to Biden. I don't have any allegiance to any of them. Doesn't matter to me who's in office. They're all the same to me. That's what he said. He said, these people are all the same to me. Neither one of them has moved the needle towards progress for black people in America. Neither one of them, on the left or the right. We're still in shambles. And here's a man trying to act like a statesman. But see, what Ice Cube didn't understand was that he was following a path of resistance against the motherfucking what? The motherfucking gynocracy. He didn't know. He was just supposed to stay rapping and trapping and making movies and making people laugh. They didn't tell him that he actually had the powers of a fucking citizen in the United States. You saw the look on Garza's face. Well, I don't know how you were able to jump the line. You didn't wait your turn. Look, lady, you didn't wait your motherfucking turn. Because you act like you speaking for damn near 40 million black people because you came in and interloped as an interloper some grassroots struggle that was taking place on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri. Then you came in there as an activist, not an activist, an activist, like Darren Seals said, who really actually was on the ground struggling before your black ass got there. You was there on Twittering and shit. You and DeRay Davis was getting all the camera time while motherfuckers was getting locked up and arrested while your ass was safely tucked away behind the fucking sidelines. Somebody needs to tell you, having a fucking hashtag and being part of the nonprofit industrial complex is not grassroots activism. But no, I sure think we could use your expertise and not your expertise, because she didn't say that shit, so I take that back. Let me rewind that. She didn't say that. But what she did say is, we can use your platform. Are you fucking out of your mind, man? No. You're not going to take over that man's platform. Like George Soros took over your platform. Which wasn't even your platform to fucking begin with. You came as an interloper and took over the platform in behalf of being a member of the black managerial class of white liberal America. Now, I might sound harsh to hear this shit, but it's the reality. It's the motherfucking truth the way I see it. You can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all of the time. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. All these lies have to stop being told, man. Nobody has a monopoly on democracy. Either it's going to be democracy or we ain't going to fucking have one at all. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you got the opportunity. I see you looking with your looking ass but won't like the video. You got the opportunity to come up here and tell me I'm fucking wrong. I dare you to bring your ass up here and tell me I'm wrong. Because it's anti-democratic to tell somebody that they can't say some shit about what they feel is in the best interest, especially of black people. Who the fuck are y'all to tell people to be quiet? Because you're afraid your goodies gonna get got. It's patriarchal. So a black man having an opinion now is some fucking patriarchy? I beg to differ. Wrong. Black men don't need your permission to speak. They don't need your permission to act. They don't need your permission to think at all. Never have. If there's anything I need to tell y'all right now, you can do whatever you want to do. You can say whatever you want to say. You can think however you want to think. You can believe whatever you want to believe. Now, you might meet with opposition in the public sphere, but that's what the public sphere is supposed to be about. And right now, you got a whole bunch of gynocrats running the whole goddamn field with an unfair advantage because they getting all this promotion and backing by these weird-ass white motherfuckers. Y'all don't get to run the table. Y'all don't get to make shit happen without our approval. But you act like you working in our fucking interest. When we already know, man, you pulling the wool over our fucking eyes. We already know what you're doing. You're trying to be set up and established as the next leadership managerial class of the black community for the next 50 fucking years. Black men in the manosphere ain't gonna let that shit go no more. It's done reached critical mass. Black men don't need your permission to speak. They don't need your permission to engage in political activity at all. We ain't around here sitting like motherfucking the water boy waiting on your fucking approval so we can say something. That's not how we thinking around here, man. We don't move like that. We got our own minds. And we don't mind talking and conversing. And the saddest thing about it all, that man, that brother, man, that brother Ice Cube came out and said to those women whom he has a friendship with, whom he has worked on movies with, one of whom he made or turned into a star. He basically said, look, if you want to, you can write the black female part of the contract with Black America. And you know what they told him? You know what they told him? I ain't gonna write. I don't want to write that. I ain't gonna write. I ain't gonna write that. And so his response was, okay, well, fuck it then. I'll write it then. Since your ass too lazy. He ain't say those exact words. But he did respond and say, well, if you're not going to write it, okay then, I'll do it. You see, anytime you stand up and you say something that's contrary to what the managerial class tell you to say, they got a goddamn problem. So I'm going to be right back. JoJo, you're on the back page. I'm coming right back. We're going to go into a commercial break right quick. And when we come back, we're going to take this person who's visiting and chiming in, who wants to chime in. Be back in a second. We are back. You know who I am. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned into the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Strike the thumb button if you like. If you care, go ahead and share. If you want to know when I'm going live, then go on ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell notification button. All I'm asking for you is to be a good patron and make a donation. Real simple solution, just make a contribution. No need for hefty lifting, just a little bit of gifting. And if you like the show, the evidence will show in your benevolence. It is what it is. Now, having said all that, I'm going to introduce JoJo to the show. So let's give him a little welcome. Let's give him a little bit of welcome here. JoJo, you're on the Green Gorilla channel. You have a comment or you like to ask a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say, what's going on, Mr. Green?
What's happening, man? You JoJo from the Lou?
Yes, sir. You already know.
Hey, man, I already know, dog. I know what that Lou boy sound like. What's good with you, brother?
I had to hop on.
You sound like a robot. To your mic.
You started. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No, but I was saying, as see it turn every single day that people don't want black men to make their own choice.
Oh no, they don't want you to make choices.
It's just crazy. It's just crazy. All the opposition against us, though.
Oh, it's crazy.
Am I echoing?
But you know what? You're there, but you keep going in and out. You sound a little bit robotic. But make a comment, man. Talk, man. Voice your opinion, man. You got 30 more seconds. Go ahead. Pour it out. Spill it out, boy.
But no, I just wanted to say, like, black men finally realize if you're not with us, then you're against us. And for every black man who's listening right now, you need to vote in your best interest and stop trying to hold on to a community that's dysfunctional and not there.
All right, thank you, JoJo, man. You be warm and safe,
lighting
man.
Up the OG stream.
Hey, man, keep coming back, man. Like, share, subscribe. So look, in an ideal situation, black men wouldn't have to vote their self-interest. But since everybody in the black community right now is dead set on silencing, on marginalizing, on decentering, on pushing to the periphery, on lambasting, on defaming, on ridiculing, issuing diatribes and invectives against black men. Well, guess what? We got to do what we got to do. It's simply unconscionable that for 60 years, the only policies that have been put in place have been policies that have been used to help advance the cause, not really of black women, but of white women. Now, black women, through proxy, they're able to take advantage of the boons associated with the women's liberation movement. Yes, they do. They get some crumbs from that. But the last time I checked, black women ain't wealthy. When I look at the analysis of wealth, the wealth gap, y'all ain't been able to close that motherfucker. Because you know what? Becky and Karen, they going home to their husband, even though they talk shit about them while they out here in the public. You don't have a whole culture surrounded on how sassy, how nasty, and how much a savage black women, white women are. You just don't have it. You don't have it. The question is, why don't you have it? But we got it. That shit ain't making you strong. That's just making you a fucking asshole. I got some things to do, man. I got some business to take care of, man. I got to give a shout out to Goshen, man. Thank you, man. I'm going to give you some fanfare for that shit right there, bro. I appreciate that, bro. I do, man. I got to give you some fanfare for that one, bro. Goshen, my brother, I appreciate your donation, sir. Show enough. Appreciate that. Also, I want to give a shout out to not only Goshen, but Mr. Heat. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind donation. I really and truly appreciate that, sir. You know I do. I also want to give a shout out to G-Rod. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind donation. I also want to take a little bit of time out to give a shout out to each and every one of y'all, man, for coming and joining me. But I also want to give a shout out to T Fitness for you. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind donation. And I think I've covered them all my bases thus far. If I'm wrong, y'all let me know. I haven't checked my phone. You also can hit me up on Cash App if you need to. But look here, man. Don't make yourselves get bent out of shape, or don't allow yourselves to get bent out of shape about what everybody's saying about you. Because people who are complaining, they just don't want change. They've been doing everything they can to suppress black men and to keep black men quiet. Don't let anybody shame you. Don't make anybody or allow anybody to make you feel guilty for the choices that you make. And the one thing I can say is this. Black men have tried to talk. Black men have tried to communicate. Black men have again and again tried to become part of the conversation. And every time we try to speak, every time we try to say something, guess what happens? Black men get pushed to the periphery. They get thrown to the side. They get told that they have nothing valuable to contribute. They get told, well, let women lead the way. And look, let me just go on the record and say this, man. Just in case anybody is confused about it. If a woman is smart, and if she has leadership qualities, and she knows more than I know about a subject, I'm going to listen to somebody who knows more than me. I don't give a fuck if they gay, straight, or whatever. I don't care if they male or female. If they know more than some shit that I'm trying to get into, let's say, for example, I want to get into the film industry, and they know something about the film industry that I don't know. They have vital connections, or they have technical skills that I don't have. I'm going to listen and absorb the information so that I can utilize it in order for me to help achieve my goal. That makes sense. But I'm not going to listen to somebody just in virtue of the fact that they have a quality or characteristic that has nothing to do with the skill I'm trying to acquire. I said this before, I'll say it again. At one time, I was an apprentice in ironworking. I was trying to become a journeyman. There were several women who were journeymen and I wasn't. And they knew more about the fucking trade than I knew. So guess what I had to do? I had to fucking listen. They knew how to tie the knots that I didn't know how to tie until I learned how to tie them. They knew how to tie rebar in various ways. They knew how to do saddle wraps. They know how to do saddle with wraps. They knew how to do figure 8 ties. And I didn't know them. And I had to learn them until I fucking found out how to do them. I didn't know how to rig iron to steel and move it from trucks. I didn't know how to signal operate to help the operator with the crane. I didn't know how to boom up, hold the load, or boom down, hold the load. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But then I had to learn. And some of them had more knowledge than I had until I learned it. So this is not about trying to be misogynistic. It's not about trying to be patriarchal. It's about fucking everybody being able to participate in a democracy. It is what it is. This is not fucking ironwork, though. This is a democracy, and everybody has the right to have their say. On election day, after election day, right running on up to the motherfucker. It don't matter. It does not matter. So having said that, man, if y'all ain't got nothing else to say, especially if you're going to get all up in this class, man, I'm like, look, I see you got a bugaboo in the chat, but, you know, don't worry about that, man. Let that woman blow off some steam, man, because she ain't doing shit but just thirsting after whitey. You want some white ding-ding, go and get on it. Get down on it. Come on and get down on it. Get down on it. Because if you had a white sugar daddy, you wouldn't be fucking around in our goddamn chats. Go and get you one. Go and bust it over, bend over, bring it back. Maybe daddy go ahead and fuck with you like Ruby from Lovecraft. So anyway, man, this straight up no chaser here, man. And at the end of the day, man, if nobody else has anything to say, I'm about to be up out this thing, man. But you know, I told you before, this is straight no chaser here. I say whatever's on my mind, however I feel, whenever I feel it. And I'm tired of having my thoughts be policed by politically correct assholes who basically are only in the fucking game of politics to fatten their own fucking pockets. Like the boy, who was in the song, Protect Your Neck? They got short arms and deep pockets. Was that the Jizza who said that shit? Man, protect your neck. I wish I could play that motherfucker on the way out. But instead, I'm going to play my own jam. I'll holler at y'all, man. Peace out, gorillas. One.
I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the finish line and I'm in the first place. I'm a winner, and I know I'll never lose, cause I'm way too ahead of you, dude. I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the finish line and I'm in the first place. I'm a winner, and I know I'll never lose, cause I'm way too ahead of you, dude. Okay, here I go. Guaranteed to be the leader of the race, come in first place. Put the pedal to the metal, let it burn, then I blow up in your face for the boom of the big bass. Turn around, nigga, pop face. Nigga, turn up the track, nigga, hurt with a burnt face. Fuck a nigga, cause he gon' hate. Put some pimpin' in his cup, set him out for the date rate. I go, I blaze, throw grenades in the party till I'm clearing out the whole place. Who got that rock money loan? You can hear it in my tone that I own, you don't know me. Better run, nigga, bustle like a gun. Ain't a motherfucker nigga that can hold me. I'm tired of niggas suckin', find your bitch so she can blow me. Ain't nobody never chase like the young boy, many bomb boys, and he hit like a donkey. And he roll with a convoy with them hot toys. If you really wanna get it jumpin'. I blow that monkey, that hairy back grin gorilla. Take it through the nose, put it on my mind. I'm a beast like Michael Jackson Thriller. Your boys are trippin', I ain't hearing till you're speaking something. Don't do too much because your pussies always do it for me. Yeah, get it good, get it like I should. All the hating motherfuckers better keep it coming. Put them all in a barn to a bomb and that motherfucker leave they body slumping. I know you player haters gon' hate, cause I'm at the